Welcome back to The Good Talk, where we discuss what's hot, what's grot, and everything in between in the wide world of Warhammer. We've got some exciting topics for us today, and I'm extremely excited to be joined, as always, by my amazing co-host, Mr. Zach Pfeiffer. How you doing, buddy?
Hey, man, what's up? Whoa, what camera is this?
This is a fancy new camera.
Yeah, this is just me.
This is just you.
I was like, I looked to you to like, I was like, whoa. And I saw, now I realize I saw you doing this before the stream, and it didn't click.
You're like shocked.
Adrian's gone.
That's me. I'm all alone in the world.
I don't really have object permanence. I just look at what's going on there.
Right, exactly. We're working on that, though.
No, Adrian.
We will get better at it.
Yeah. It's great to be here. The topics today are very exciting. So yeah, I'm super excited to get into these.
It's going to be a ton of fun. Of course, as always, join us in chat. Let us know what you guys think. We've got Zach on the iPad so we can see everything you guys are saying. And of course, this is the good talk. This is not the good lecture. We want to hear your guys' thoughts on the matters of the day. And of course, if you do like it, do consider subscribing to the channel. It is a great way to support it, and you can keep up to date on all this amazing content. So let's dive on and talk about the topics. A number of things to go over today. First off, we're going to be discussing Warhammer 40k. Should it actually be competitive? Is it designed to be competitive? Where are we on that? Very interesting topic. Followed by, of course, we're going to be looking at hot or grot slap chop. If you haven't heard of slap chop, don't worry. We're going to talk about it today, and we have a number of videos we can point you to. It's a hot new buzzword that I think is interesting to discuss, and I think it's up to you guys. Is it hot or is it grot? And of course, last of all, we have a bit of a Grognard Grumble talking about the bits problem, which is a classic issue that many hobbyists will be used to. With that, let's dive on in and take a look. All right, so first topic of the day, of course, competitive 40k. Should it be a thing? Is it a thing? Where are we at on that? And the reason I wanted to talk about this, it's obviously a subject that's near to my heart.
Yeah.
I'll go ahead and say I love playing competitive 40k. It's a ton of fun.
Yeah.
It's an amazing community. You get to travel and see friends and play this game that we love. But you notice a lot of these things that I've mentioned actually have nothing to do with like being competitive. It's more about the act of getting together and all this stuff.
You could be playing in any style, technically.
Exactly,
right.
100%. And I think there's a few things lately that kind of highlighted maybe some potential issues. I think let's talk about what makes a competitive game traditionally. We can look at sports, we can look at esports, things like that. In esports, you have, generally speaking, very much shorter rounds. With tight turnover. So if you're looking at things like Counter-Strike or even like Overwatch or what's the Riot Counter-Strike game? All these games.
League of Legends?
No. Well, there's League of Legends, of course, is an important one. It's not their Counter-Strike game, but all these are very short rounds. StarCraft, maybe 20-minute rounds. And what this lets you do is, kind of average things out. Best out of whatever over this many games.
Magic as well, for what it's worth.
Magic, also short rounds. Warhammer, a game is 3 hours, and that's a fast game of Warhammer, right? That's a big issue. Another issue, of course, is accuracy. You have to play sort of the gentle person's game and like trust each other, which, again, trust is not the issue here. It's accuracy. It's tracking how truly like good someone is at the game.
Right.
So there's a number of issues that kind of present themselves overall, right?
There are so many nerd games that can be good competitive games. And we even talked about like chess.
Yeah,
right?
100%.
Or Go.
That's a great example.
Go, right? Or but you think about something even like Catan, Settlers of Catan. That has a big competitive circuit.
Does it really?
Yeah,
what?
It's a huge competitive circuit.
That's amazing.
Like, I think there's like a U.S. major at Gen Con every year.
Yeah.
If somebody knows Catan more than me, let me know. But you're not wrong. War games, in general, have a lot of issues. I don't know. I guess you've thought on this recently more than I have, but we've all thought on it.
Yeah, exactly.
And so, you tell me what you're you go. You have your your moment. I don't hear what you're thinking.
Well, the thing that got me thinking about it happened. A week ago, almost 2 weeks ago now. And of course, it was at the U.S. Chicago Open, hosted by GW. We have a picture up here, which I got. I got from Frontline Gaming on the amazing Grim After Dark podcast, of course, where they discussed this basically as it was happening. And honestly, I highly recommend you check it out, if nothing else, to see just Just see Danny absolutely cracking up at this picture. And basically, what we have is the tiebreaker to be able to get in. I believe this was not in to get into the finals, so it's not like a crazy huge thing,
Right.
but it is basically to compete in one of the final games of the Games Workshop run U.S. Chicago Open, and they are resolving it with rock paper scissors. And this is what decided who would progress to the next round and who would not.
Yeah.
Now, I bring this up not to say, oh, look, they're so dumb. Like, why did they use rock, paper, scissors?
No.
There's a million other ways to resolve this.
We know where this is going. It's like
Is this where we come to, though?
the alternative is a shadow round.
A shadow round.
And the shadow round, as you mentioned, is 3 more hours
Exactly.
of play.
It's a huge problem.
Hey, you guys are going to start playing at 9 p.m. Go get dinner, shadow
Yeah.
round at 9 p.m. Because we've seen this happen, right?
100%. 100%.
And the shadow round is late, and then the next morning you're up early.
Yeah, it's horrible.
After having done that a few other times,
Yeah.
a couple other days in a row.
It's
Yeah.
scary stuff. You know, we're going to talk about the SoCal Open soon, but last year, you know, Brian and I, 9th and 10th at SoCal Open, and both of us kind of terrified of making it into the shadow round. Because that
Yeah.
means you have to play your 4th game for the day, and if you succeed, which presumably you want to, then you're playing the next morning again,
Right.
Another up to 3 games. So it's like very, very intensive.
Yeah.
But this, of course, is to help resolve this idea of like this only happens when you have multiple people that are undefeated, or you have ties, which I believe was the case here. And so the solution thus far has been adding more rounds to these tournaments. Funny enough, this thing seems to be changing. We had the Lone Star Open, and now we're going to have this upcoming week the SoCal Open,
Yep.
which is a major, but only 6 rounds. So pretty much there will be multiple undefeated.
You're 6 rounds?
Yeah.
Am I 6 rounds?
So the whole event of SoCal is just 2 days.
Yeah.
So you might be 5.
It might be 5.
Which is traditionally Sigmar doesn't quite have enough to like make it as much of a problem.
Yeah.
But it seems like some people are saying, maybe event organizers are saying, screw it. We're going to have multiple undefeated. That's fine.
We just have points.
We're
I mean,
just-
we
we're
have
just-
points for a reason.
Yeah.
We have
Exactly.
a battle, whatever you call them.
Battle points.
Battle points, whatever.
Yep.
Everything has them for a reason. And it's like, you didn't get to go up against the other guy who's undefeated or the other 3 or 4 people that were undefeated, but like there's still a winner.
Exactly. You still have a winner. It's interesting.
I think the bracketing, and in a way, the bracketing is kind of interesting if you look at it in the context of, I don't know, let's say sports ball. Every playoff, every day,
Yeah.
lots of athletes play in the same league all over the country, all over the world, play games in the same league, and there are winners and losers.
Yep.
And they don't necessarily then play each other. But then there is a playoff system that's bracketed. So,
Right.
Frontline, GW has already done this, has stepped up and said, we're going to actually have a finals, right? It's in New Mexico in November, I think.
Yeah. For their season, basically.
That's your bracket, right? That's your playoffs. And that's really a compelling situation as opposed to treating every event like a playoff.
Yeah.
Which is kind of what we do currently, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's interesting. I think for one, I'm open to it because I just played at Nova recently, and like that was like just the concept of like no matter what, I was going to have to or be incentivized to play 9 rounds was frankly exhausting. I love Warhammer, but that is a lot, and I think that's a lot to ask of your average player, right? And your average tournament goer that's going to be showing up. The third day of the event, like imagine like SoCal before. The third day is basically for the top 8 players. There are single day RTTs, which I think are great to kind of fill up the time and space.
Yeah.
But like a whole nother day, people have to come on Friday, fly out awkwardly, like take more time off work. So I think as a community, while this might be like less competitive, I think that's okay. I think maybe we need to let go of that a little bit.
I think so too. I think so too. And now I will say, we're talking about the organization of the events.
Yeah.
I'll say one more thing about that. I don't know how much you want to get into the nitty-gritty of the game itself, right?
Look, I'm down.
The organization of events is interesting. I'll make an analogy that a lot of people don't know, and it's not technically competitive.
Okay.
I'm not a fan of professional wrestling
Okay.
necessarily. I don't dislike it.
Oh, okay.
I think it's cool, but I don't follow it. And I know it's not like, it's about entertainment.
Yeah.
Right? And wrestlers are amazing people. Like the stuff they do, they're performers.
Sure, yeah.
And athletes.
Yeah.
Right? The only reason I think I know any of what I'm about to say, folks, is I think I saw it on John Oliver or something.
Okay.
Before Vince McMahon, like in the US, made the WW, it was at the time F, now WWE, there were little federations of all over the country of wrestling leagues, and they had kind of their own show and their own way of doing stuff. And I think there was some weird crossover. That's sort of in a way what we have now, right? Like, for example, I know in Sigmar there's a SoCal Masters League in Sigmar, but I'm not part of that league. I couldn't be part of that. I really could not be part of that league based on geography.
Yeah.
I guess I could go play some of their events and show up in the rankings, but I'm not going to sustain it, right?
Yeah.
This is another issue that I don't know I don't know how that gets resolved necessarily. Like, we can't expect people to go to RTTs in Maryland every other weekend or in Minnesota, like, you know what I mean?
So because are you saying we should like keep it more local, or?
Well, are you if an ITC or any of this stuff, if it says like, oh, you're the top player because you live in New York metropolitan area, you live in the Bay Area, SoCal or Chicago, you can get way more games in than somebody in rural Idaho.
Yes.
Are you truly the top Deathwatch player, or based on win percentage, is that person in rural Idaho who's won all 3 of their games in the past 6 months truly the best Deathwatch? I don't know why I'm using Deathwatch, but whatever it happens to be, right?
Small community. No.
Right, yeah, it probably is a good example for that reason.
Yeah. Oh, the Deathwatch players watch. Who watches the Deathwatch players? They watch themselves each other very, very closely because of the smaller bases of players, right? But this is something that ITC over time has tried to resolve. Of like, how many RTTs do you need versus how many like big events, and what counts as what, and how do you not have people game it? Because it is like, again, like you said, it is not just about the game itself, but it's the way that you organize this play in these systems. It's like we just had LGT, and I think shockingly didn't shake up the rankings too much. LVO is going to be a big determiner. All these big events, big determiners for the year. So like LGT, LVO, and I guess these GW events I think are also ITC. But I don't know. It's interesting. I'm curious. What does Chad think of all this?
Lots of different thoughts. There's some great a great super chat on this, and we do want to give a quick hello and thank you to Liam. Liam gifted us 5 memberships.
What up? What up? What up?
Liam's show is on after ours.
Yes.
We're trying to make sure we get finished, so we don't eat into his time.
Yeah, we want to have the show be within an hour, and this is actually gonna. This link is going to go directly right into his stream.
Oh, that's
afterwards.
awesome. That's so cool.
Yeah.
So, thank you, Liam, so much. And hello, Liam. Max Stifler?
Thanks,
Max. Thanks, Max. Your last name's not that hard. I just expected that to be a T there, not an L. 40k should remain competitive. I don't think competitive play should be the main focus of 40k. I think fun, thrown together games should be the focus. This gets more into the game itself, right? Like, and does it even matter? Like, what if it's not a good competitive game, but you have a competitive circuit around it anyway?
Yeah.
We all know that.
Yeah,
We're all going into the same system. Like, does it matter?
Yeah, I think, over the last few years, so yeah, it's interesting. And over the last few years, we've seen an increase in like the competitiveness of Warhammer, and an increase in the professionalization of Warhammer. And personally, I think, not to be controversial, but I think the professionalization of like playing the game really well it creates lots of issues, in my opinion.
Good, bad, both. A little bit of both, a little bit bad, a little bit good, a lot of good.
I think people who know how to play the game
and
want to teach people by creating content that's interesting, compelling, is cool. And obviously, we're both teachers. We're interested in that. I think that's cool. But it creates certain issues where there's a lot of pressure to perform well. So you have like top teams, top players. There's a lot of pressure, and the focus goes away from celebrating the game, what we do and what we enjoy about it, which is also the people, and focusing on just the performance, and I think, it creates a lot of pressure. And there was one individual who I will not name, which I normally do, that was caught blatantly cheating a week after he launched his coaching service. And it's just like, cool. So I don't know, it puts a lot of pressure. And I think if we can like have the game be competitive, but not push it so far in this like absolute competitive, tippy-top players. If you're a normal person who's coming on the weekends, you never have any hope. I think that's not a bad thing, honestly. I think it's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
I think we should accept that there's a limit to how competitive the game can be, and that is okay. We can still get together, roll dice, and try to play as well as we can within the limits of this very ephemeral game. I don't know.
Yeah, what are the alternatives is the question, and why are we doing this, right? And so we've talked before that a lot of what a hobby is. I'll give you guys a quick example. I was out at lunch with Megan outdoors, and there were just a bunch of people with cars in the parking lot off to the side of us.
Yeah.
And they were just there on a Sunday morning. And what it is it's called a car club. And Megan was like, what do they do? And I know this because Bryce, a friend of the channel, Bryce Kingman, whose armies we've borrowed Skaven, Bryce is in one of these. And literally all they do is drive their go grab coffee, maybe together, and then they just meet up in a parking lot somewhere, like a big parking lot, like a big box store parking lot, off to the side, away from everybody else, park their cars, and they just chat.
Yeah.
And Megan's like, well, what are they doing? Like, they just look at each other's cars, and they're in a community, and they're interacting with each other, right?
Talk about things
and that's really what this is, right? That's what this is right now. That's what you and I are doing, right? Like, so...
That's something we're big on here, right?
We're big on that here.
And you love playing competitive Sigmar, I love playing competitive 40k, but at the end of the day, the emphasis is on everything around it, the community. That's the thing that we truly love, right?
I think, so what is the alternative? But the alternative actually, one of the things I would submit is, and I'm not trying to put people who do narrative events on blast, but I've gone to a lot of narrative 40k events. I've never gone to a narrative Sigmar event.
Yeah.
And oftentimes, I think the narrative events are a little bit off the rails. And the games are almost less fun because the expectations are odd.
Yes.
And you show up and you right away are like hamstrung, and you're like, well, that's lame. I wanted to play this role.
Yeah.
Going into a competitive game, you know exactly what you're getting. So it's almost like, for me, what I want, and we created a club in the Bay Area that did this, I want good match play games that aren't so high stakes, high pressure, and I don't necessarily even know how you get that. You hold a match play event, and don't care about who won, which is pretty cool.
I think giving prizes to other people is important. We were just talking about Renaissance person. Yeah, amazing award because it's the balance of like painting and playing and sportsmanship when that's relevant. So I think that's cool. And there's other ways of rewarding and celebrating it. And I think the 6-round thing is partially a way to also resolve this. However, I will say this. There's that caveat I'll say. Yeah. Traditionally when you go to a major or a GT that's big enough, you play very differently than you would for an RTT. In an RTT, again, you often will have multiple undefeated. So every battle point matters. So you need to play for every point and squeeze as much as you can out of it, which means that
you're beating up people.
You're beating up people. Yeah. In the GT, when it's enough rounds that there'll be one undefeated, all you have to do is win. Doesn't matter by how many points or whatever. So like you don't. Yeah. It has the less potential to create like arguments and kind of bullying in a way, like not in like literal sense, but in the game sense of like you need every single point, and even if it it doesn't change the game. Having said that, counterpoint to my own argument, WTC. A lot of European formats play with differential scoring, basically, right? Which has the potential to do that already, because it's like, well, I just need to get as many more points. I need to get my points and deny you points. Yeah. So that, and I don't know that there's a huge issue with that or not. Maybe some people who have played it in those formats can speak better to that in chat, but I am kind of cognizant of that as we go into SoCal weekend, that I am going to have to be really on my points every single round.
I think I find that being on your points or feeling like you're beating people up. Yeah. In competitive Sigmar anyway, I'm sure it's the same in 40k. Like there comes a point where you've won. Yeah. Sometimes you tell that by turn 4. Sometimes you tell it by turn 3, and sometimes it goes down to turn 5. If it goes down to turn 5, it probably doesn't matter. It's probably a close game. So you're not beating somebody up. Yeah. But if it goes to 4 or 3, I usually find that either me or my opponent is like is pretty willing to be like, hey, that was a good game. Yeah. This went wrong for me in turn 2. It was really bad. Yeah, let's give you all your points. Totally. Most people just give each other in Sigmar as many points. Me and my opponents have always just been like, okay, what's the most you would get? Right. And we go through, and we're usually very generous. Yeah. Because one person has now won, and one person has now lost. Yeah. So I don't know that like trying to beat people up is such a thing I felt like I've noticed, at least in competitive Sigmar, that is like an issue.
Totally.
I don't know. Have you seen it be ugly? Have you seen it get ugly? Ugly meaning like you beat them by turn 3, but like, no, let's keep playing. Because I really, no matter how many points you think I'm going to get more. I'm going to make you watch me get more.
There can be this uncomfortable thing when you're playing an RTT and you feel like you're going to win the game. You know you can win the game, but like, for example, maybe they're playing slow, frankly. Maybe they're a new player. And frankly, if you can get through turn 3 and just and you know you win and it's fine, it's all good.
Yeah.
That could happen at a GT. But at an RTT, it's like you don't want to have to rush the person, and like, I don't know, there's more kind of onus on the person who is already in the dominant position to be like, okay, like we need to go faster and keep it moving. And it's like, rather than just being like, yeah, we know what the result is going to be, and we can kind of be more chill about it. And that's also hard for new players, because then, and I have seen this happen, again, not often, but I have seen it happen where it's just like someone is upset because their opponent frankly was bad at the game and actually ended up losing them points or whatever. So
I see.
It's a weird thing.
Yeah.
But I agree. I think the attitude is important. I think the way that we approach it as a community is important.
Yeah. Adrian Smart says, why do you think GW decided not to make Heresy the competitive game? All the factions are inherently balanced, sharing a common pool of units. Love the new lineup. Keep it up. I guess, Adrian, here you're suggesting that the competitive is a little more, almost in a way, or you're wondering why they didn't pick that? Like
it does look on the cover that maybe this could be the most balanced, right?
Right.
It's closer to like chess or whatever, where you have equal pieces.
Yeah.
You don't, but it's closer.
You don't.
You don't.
I played Heresy 1.0.
Yeah.
It's not.
Right.
it wasn't. That's not to say that 2.0 is not more.
Look, Heresy is very dense, convoluted, expensive, narrative. And I don't really mean most of those things as disses, to be honest.
No,
I think
they're all
it's
good
meant
things.
for a different community.
Yeah.
And so, however, remember when Underworlds came out? Where is it? What is that actually called? The hex-based game?
Yeah.
And they said, this is the competitive game.
Yeah.
And I understand it. Guess what that is? It's short. You can do multiple rounds.
Yeah.
It's precise.
Yeah.
You're moving in hexes. It's like, determinant and all that stuff. And they were like, this is going to be our competitive game. It didn't really take off, but the concept was there.
It's interesting.
Right?
I've played Kill Team.
Yeah.
I've played Aeronautica.
Yep.
I've played Sigmar. I would say of those three, Aeronautica is probably the best competitive game.
Yeah. And why is that?
Short.
Yep.
Hex-based.
Yep.
The factions aren't all that different.
Yep.
There are no saves. You hit on 5s. It's fun. It's wacky. But being skilled is helpful. But being skilled isn't. That's another deep question, right? Chess, the most skilled player should always win.
Right. Yeah.
Is that what you want?
Well, are you good at rock, paper, scissors?
But that's pure luck. That's the other way around.
No, I know,
almost, right? Well, there's a little bit of skill in rock, paper, scissors.
I think for truly competitive, yes. Well, yes.
Yeah.
I think so. But I think that is a bit, again, against the spirit of Warhammer.
Right.
Things explode. You get perils of the warp.
Yeah.
There's deliberate things in the game that are meant to create drama.
Right.
And that's great.
Right.
It's non-competitive.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
So like as far as mechanics-wise, of all these games, Aeronautica is probably the best. Sigmar has some things sort of like you're suggesting, Adrian. Like there's largely Adrian Smart suggestion.
Super chat.
Suggesting. There's
You're not saying
largely
Adrian's smart. I mean, he is, but
there's largely there's like a pool of command abilities we can all do, right? And then some armies have one more or something like that.
totally.
But it's still not anywhere close to chess. You know what I mean? That's like very still far.
The
still
combinatorics are massive, right? That's the thing, ultimately.
Max Sliffer says, I think 40k should focus more on Maelstrom Tempest style play. I think this would encourage more balanced list building. It would go faster.
Yeah, I think Tempest of War is a really great direction for most 40k players. It is more competitive than you think. The whole thing of like, oh, the cards can just ruin your day is somewhat a factor, but not as much as you might think, because part of it becomes, and this is what I always say when I defend Sigmar as well with the double turn thing. It's like, yes, there's this crazy random element, but the way that you strategize around that becomes interesting.
It's not it can't be a surprise to you when it happens. We all know.
You know it's happening.
We all know it can happen.
Exactly. So I think, I think it's not truly competitive, but maybe it's the right level of competition. And I think that is part of what I'm getting at, is like, maybe it's okay to be a little bit less competitive in this game,
JN says, my group thank you, JN, by the way. He says, my group of friends and I are semi-competitive at games, Magic the Gathering, Warhammer, fighting games, etc. But escalating competitive arms race in Magic the Gathering Commander ruined EDH for us? Was EDH?
It's Commander, essentially.
Commander, okay.
Yeah.
Is it possible to reach that level of unfun in Warhammer?
That's a good question. There's a bit of a cap compared to like Magic and EDH and all that good stuff, because...
Now, I'm sorry, I'm going to cut you off.
Because
I'm going to say that JN then adds to this. Thank you, JN, for the second super chat here. He says, I guess my question is how to diffuse the escalating arms race so we can still have fun. Love y'all, 777.
Yeah, thank you so much. Sevens. With Commander and Magic, there's a lot more money tied into how powerful your deck is, your list is, right? Definitely the more money you spend, the better it will be. And you do eventually get diminishing returns, but that is for sure a thing. And as new cards get released and things change, then that kind of constantly adapts. With Warhammer, there is an arms race in the case that, like, what's hot now, what's good, and like jumping on that and going up to buy all those models and things like that. But I think the cap is a bit lower. But as far as what can we do to get around this, to avoid this, I think GW, is doing a lot of the things right. Balanced data slates that come out often. You bring things down, you bring things up, you do that.
You're starting to get disincentivized from buying 9 Carnifexes when the book comes out, because you're like, it used to be this would be good for a year, 18 months, 2. Now it might not be good a month from now.
Frankly, yes.
Right?
Frankly, yes.
You can't really do that anymore.
Yeah, 100%. I think one mistake they made with Nephilim, we've talked about this before, is the secondaries. They took away common secondaries. Like, I think to the last it was good to remove, but it was a secondary that was available to many armies, regardless of your faction specific.
Right.
Stranglehold, one that was very popular, and they took these away. Again, bold choice, because if they do it well, it means you're going to have many bespoke armies playing different play styles and getting to do their thing.
Big flavor.
Exactly.
Very nice,
But it's so much more prone to making mistakes. One can be way skewed and crazy powerful. And so I think playing it safe is less prone to these giant spikes. Because guess what? You're getting closer to this even playing field, to chess, whatever it may be. Even just like in esports, you start with exactly the same range of possibilities on both sides. So I think that those are decisions that they should probably lean towards, rather than this like, we'll have everything hopefully work out perfectly, and if it doesn't, then we're screwed.
Well, I think that's super chats for this topic.
Yeah, I think we've about covered the bases here. We both love competitive play, but it's important to think about it and consider where we want to be moving forward in the future.
I think we could talk on this topic the whole hour.
Oh, for sure.
There's
100%.
There's more to come back to on this one for sure.
No, I think you're absolutely right. And what's that?
Oh, yay.
Yeah. It's your favorite time. It is time for the Grognard Grumble. Very excited to be talking about this matter today. This is something that I think a lot of us can appreciate. My grumble for today, Zach.
It's a good one.
It's a good one. We're seeing these pictures appear up on screen. These are pictures from my house. And I'd like to make the excuse that I've recently moved into the house. But let's be honest, this is a problem that I've had before. A couple nights ago, I was working on Emperor's Children, looking for a Dark Apostle that I know I've had, and I was like looking around for him. I thought I put him on the side. I'm digging through these bins, these boxes. You can see that's just filled like with Warcry terrain, and this is my big bag of bits. I spent hours looking for this model. That frankly was here at the studio the whole time.
Okay. I was going to ask you about that, because once you said it just now, I was like, I think there's a Dark Apostle here somewhere.
Yeah, it was in a tray which I had grabbed separately.
Okay.
So my grumble is like, how come you can never find the thing that you're looking for when you need it? You know? And I think we all have this problem to some greater or lesser extent. So like, what's up with that? You know? That's what we should call this section.
It's a really good Grognard Grumble. And the thing is, the more of a Grognard you become,
yes.
meaning the longer you're in the hobby, the more of a problem it becomes.
Yeah.
And you always run into that guy who's like, oh, I've got the perfect solution, and they do it, and it's not 100% working, because I thought I had the perfect solution. I actually have them here.
Oh, nice.
I don't know if you guys ever have these, in the US we have these Talentelli.
Yeah.
It's like Italian gelato. And they come in these clear plastic
artisanal
containers.
gelato.
Yeah, Megan and I love them. You get like, you buy one, you get like 2 desserts for a couple.
Yeah.
2 nights of desserts
They're
for
great.
a couple. They're really good. You mix and match. We like to mix the mango with the vanilla.
Oh, okay.
Something like that, a little scoop of
Oh,
each.
that's a little weird.
It's good. It's good. Okay. Anyway, I saved these. I have a million of these. I have a million at the studio. And I put bits in them. You can see through them, so you almost don't have to label them.
Ooh, see, I like that a lot.
Yeah.
And coming to that realization.
You just like go like that, and you're like, oh, that's Daughters of Cain.
Exactly.
Oh, that's Thousand Sons. You know what I mean? Like you just like, that's terrain.
100%.
Imperial terrain, Tau terrain, whatever, right? But I cannot keep up with these.
No.
Like I still, sometimes I can't even keep up with clipping the sprue.
That's the hardest thing, because if you do it, it does work. If you are diligent about clipping your sprues.
Yeah.
Like I'm psychotic. I keep all my bits. I keep other people's bits. But if you're good at trimming them, when my family moved from here to the East Coast, we had, a decade of models from my dad and all of us kind of growing up, and we trimmed it down to like just a couple tiny boxes because it just compacts. But you have to take the time to do that, right?
Yeah.
But that is an option.
Yeah.
Clear containers. You can see here, these are just like unmarked. No, they're marked. They're like Home Depot moving boxes that just say sprues. Not helpful at all. I think the one we're going to see in a second says sprues, Urguls. And I put like some of the factions.
Only Urguls.
I found them. I was like, oh my God, I have these Urguls. I need to mark it. But transparent containers. These things, baggies, big bins, which is also what you use for terrain. They're transparent.
Oh, right.
Sorry, the big transparent bins. I think there's some potential solutions.
Step one for sure is clipping your sprues, and when you assemble. And I've tried to do this. I usually can, unless I'm in like a rush, which we often get into here at the studio.
Of course, yeah.
But I often I try to say clipping the sprues is same as assembly. It is just the final stage of assembly.
Yeah.
Frankly, I hate assembly.
Yeah.
Clipping the sprues is my favorite.
Really?
I love clearing a sprue.
Yeah.
I love being like, yes, cleared.
Yes.
Clipping the sprue in half, putting it in the recycling, which probably doesn't even get recycled, sadly.
That's a whole thing.
But that's a whole other topic. Yeah, I love clearing a sprue. Like, that helps a lot.
Yeah.
Having sprues, oh man, like once you are keeping sprues.
I have giant tubs of them, and that's not even all of them, by the way. That's just what fit in small boxes.
This is a great weekend for you and Mel. You just put the TV on, watch you guys were just talking about last night, watching every Harry Potter movie while she does
my 1,000 Suns.
Yeah, how she paints 1,000 Suns.
I mean, how am I get my 1,000 Suns done?
This is another one. You need literally one tool.
Mel does love clipping bits. She finds it very therapeutic. You can zone out.
Yeah,
I think it's a great thing to do while you're watching TV. So maybe even get like a bit spin, just put it next to your, where you ever watch TV.
Yeah.
Significant other, children.
Rings of Power.
Great for doing
Rings
bits.
of Power available now. Can stream the whole thing.
Yeah. Not sponsoring today's episode, but we're open. We're available. What does Chad think about this? Do they have any grumbles and any solutions?
There's a couple super chats about the last question.
Oh, okay.
Or about last topic. Thank you, LOL Chaos. LOL Chaos says, Mango Vanilla Astra Military Color Army? Question mark. Actually, yeah, that's like yellowish. That's yellow and white is my favorite, and I have my Aeronautica Imperial fleet is yellow and white, and it does look like mango.
It is kind of mango vibes, isn't it?
It is mango vanilla vibes.
You're a very like tropical fruit color scheme guy. Think about your Tau.
Yeah, my Tau are kind of tropically. Yeah,
I think they're very tropical. Honestly.
Yeah. Well, the setting was supposed to be a tropical mountain.
Okay, that's fair.
That they're on.
Your Daughters of Cain?
I don't know if that's That's more like Miami, 1984.
Just cocaine fueled.
Yeah, cocaine fueled, which is kind of describes the Daughters of Cain.
That's literally the Daughters of Cain.
Here we go. Thank you, Norman. Norman's got going. He says, being autistic has meant that my unopened boxes, open spurs and bits are all meticulously sorted, labeled, and cataloged. Bring and buy LGS raffles, helping new players helps keep things controlled. That's true. It's talking about the LGS raffles, helping new players keep things controlled. like selling your bits, selling your raffle.
Oh, I can see that. I think that's a great way. I was gonna say we do. The local game stores here, Game Castle, shout out to Lindsay and Kat, do a lot of like these swap meets and flea markets, which are great.
There's like one every weekend for the next month.
Oh, they're so good.
All the different ones.
You can get great deals because people are like, I'd rather you get this than it go in the trash or sit in my garage, So it's like a cool exchange.
It's
dangerous.
Like an awesome terrain piece that's been out of print for 40 years that you've been looking for.
Yeah.
Like an old Citadel Forest, the ones with the bases.
Yes.
Still. I still like those.
They're great.
The new ones are cool, but I like the old ones. You just show up and someone's like, yeah, I've had like 6 of these in my garage for like 20 years. Like, okay, yeah. So you want like $100? Okay. Like,
they'd rather go to someone,
Yeah.
So. Yeah, I think it's great that you're able to be organized about this because that is the key. And as you can see, I'm not good about being organized.
Thank you, Norman. Yeah,
appreciate it, Norman. You're better about like starting and finishing whole projects because that's kind of how you do it.
Mm-hmm. I try to.
It's hard though.
But that's it, right?
Right.
Thank you, Melody. Melody says, I used all my leftover sprues to make brick flooring for my Sisters of Battle.
That's right.
I get compliments on it often. It's fun being a tiny mason.
That was also probably very therapeutic.
Yeah, I guess. Oh, yeah.
That drive me nuts.
Yeah, that's a good use. And that's probably truly recycling. Well, that's reusing, which is even better than recycling.
Even better.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, bits.
What's the vibe in chat? Are people like, what do they think about this?
I
think everyone has this problem.
Everyone has the problem. Most people are pretty willing to admit to it.
Yeah, that's fair.
Oh my God, yeah. Zach is fruity. There's a Zach is fruity vibe.
You are quite.
Because of my tropical.
Delicious.
Tropical obsession with army colors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally fair.
Lots of different approaches. Some people are very, and this is what I'm saying, lots of people, and even like Norman, right? Like lots of people are very proud of how good at this they are.
Exactly.
And it is a thing worth being proud of in the hobby.
Honestly.
It's like up there with being a good painter.
I'm very
or
jealous.
A good player.
I'm very jealous.
Yeah.
I do have a sort of like method to my madness in the sense that like I have those bins and those bits and like I'm very proud usually of like knowing exactly where I can find everything. But inevitably you really should clean things up. And in my case, I did eventually have to move. So now I have no idea where anything is, and I'm sort of coming to terms with the fact that I need to be better organized. And frankly, I'm lucky enough to have the studio, and I've sort of shrunk my space at home, which means now I have to really, really be organized. I can't make a mess. I want to have it be a good working space for not only myself, but also Mel, so we can like both be hobbying and stuff.
Right.
So I'm having to like, this is on my mind. This is really on my mind.
No, it's fair. It's always on my mind.
Absolutely. Well, with that, I believe.
Oh, this is good.
It's time for the hot or grot of the day. Very excited. Now, today's hot or grot is the question and the issue of slap chop, which is this newfangled painting concept that's appeared over the past few months, starting around April. So if you're not familiar with slap chop and what it is, I'll say this, I'll explain what it is, and I'll talk about kind of the history of where it comes from, and then we can get into this question of slap chop. Is it hot? Is it grot? And where do we all stand on this? Both you, myself, and everyone else in chat. So slap chop came about back in April. This was from a video by Honest Wargamer where he kind of proposed this idea of slap chop. We see this is actually the top right-hand video. These are like in chronological order in the history of slap chop.
Right.
Basically, it's just speed painting. So in that video, he basically says, you take your prime black model, you dry brush with like a medium gray over the whole model. So it's crazy. Like what we were in 2022, we're talking about dry brushing models.
Yep.
And then you contrast paint over it. Oh, sorry. There's one more step where you do a lighter dry brush of like pure white and just get like I'm doing Space Marine shoulder pads. In case you couldn't tell. And then you put contrast over the whole thing. So basically, you're using your undercoating, under shading, under painting, and then using contrast to kind of fill it out. So it's fast speed painting.
Right.
That's the concept of it. So Honest Wargamer did a video about that. And then recently Ninjon did a video looking at slap chop. And he did it by using airbrush. And literally yesterday, Dana Howell did a video also looking at slap chop, trying out a few techniques. She's a big fan of airbrush. And so it was slap chop using airbrush again in that video. And so that's kind of been the progression of this. And that's Slap Chop. I have thoughts, but
Yeah.
I want you to go first here.
Okay, well, I will say there is a couple super chats on this already.
Oh, perfect.
Random Hero actually super chatted a while ago.
Sure.
First super chat of our stream and actually said, I've been using Slap Chop since contrast paints came out. It's worked wonders.
Yeah.
I'll share some photos in the Discord. I'm going to take a look actually at the Discord up right
perfect.
here.
Yeah.
So I will take a look here in a second. And then we just got one from Nurgle Matthew. I think he's being a Weisenheimer. He says, Grot Gang. Been talking about the Slap Chop kitchen appliance for a long time. You know what that is, right?
Yeah, that's where this originally comes from, right?
Yeah.
If you like go on YouTube and look up Slap Chop, it's like
Yeah.
these videos and like the OG commercial for Slap Chop.
Yeah, I'm gonna pull up Hero. I'm gonna pull up your Random Hero. I'm gonna pull up your pictures here in a second. For me,
Yeah, I would love to see it.
In general, I'd say this is hot for me.
Okay.
Anything that gets painted models on the table is hot.
Yeah.
And anything that gets painted models on the table that aren't like really ugly. I'm
Sure.
sorry to say, but like
That's fair.
if you're going out and you're saying like, hey, I'm just gonna get craft store paints only and just cake this stuff on over Rust-Oleum and it's gonna look ugly just because I want to get the 3-color minimum.
Yeah.
If you're almost like getting a 3-color minimum like begrudgingly,
Yeah.
Not into that.
When it's like technically 3 colors.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
the 3 dots. No.
or even like a lot of colors but just done poorly, right? Like
There's no care put into it.
right, I'd rather see a Slap Chop Ultramarine that is well done with 2 red eyes and then it's like barely a 3rd color.
Yeah.
Then I'd rather see a 2-color well done miniature than a 6-color poorly done miniature.
People often conflate painting well with the amount of time spent, right?
Yes.
You can paint quickly but well. There is a bit of a correlation. This obviously comes up with commission painting. Saying that you want a tabletop standard or whatever level, like very basic level, does not mean you should get a bad paint job. It's just a simpler paint job with less additional steps, extra effects. Doesn't mean it has to be bad.
This looks great, Random Hero. This does not look Slap Chop.
Oh my gosh,
There's a lot going on.
This is fantastic.
That's a lot going on for Slap Chop. Check out Random Heroes in Hobby Progress on our Discord. Yeah, there's a link if you're not already in Discord.
It's totally free. You guys can check it out.
Hobby Progress.
Yeah.
It's an orc war boss.
It's Gaz.
Yeah, it's Gaz.
Big Daddy Gaz.
Oh my god, I couldn't even identify Gaz.
Ooh.
Yeah.
So you are saying it is hot, and I haven't put up the poll yet, guys, because I want to discuss a bit. I think in YouTube, once you vote, you can't change your vote, right?
I don't know.
Okay, I don't want to risk it. We'll do a test, and maybe next week we can see.
Yeah,
it'd also be interesting to see like if it ebbs and flows.
Yeah.
So you're saying it's hot. I'm gonna take the alternate stance.
Okay.
Just for the sake of argument, I'm gonna say it's Grot.
Okay.
For this reason, I am all about accessibility. See, now you can't argue against me. No, I'm all about accessibility. I think, and painting can be very guilty of this sin, which is overcomplicating things, making things sound more inaccessible than they are.
Okay.
This whole technique is just undercoating, under shading, and this is what also Dana talks about in her video. It's just like you're doing these undershades beneath, and then you're basically doing glazing, which
Right.
Kat likes to talk with me a lot because I just like, oh, you just put a wash, and she's like, that's a glaze. I'm like, cool, that's great. We have this language to kind of discuss common terms, but I also think like I don't even personally like using the term zenithal. It's like you're going to paint from above, create a light source. I think Slap Chop is a great. I think painting fast, painting accessibly, and getting painted models, making them accessible, that's great. But this idea that we need to like brand this as something other than what it is, it's like this is just painting quickly, painting using contrast. Look at our contrast video we talked about. It's the exact same thing. So I'm going to say this concept of Slap Chop is a bit broad, but speed painting is hot.
I see.
So just to provide the alternate.
Okay, I see. So actually what you're saying is that you're into it, but the branding and the kind of like vibing around
It's weird.
it.
Like honest board gamers, like look at me, I invented this method of painting, which is just called using contrast,
right?
Not on a primer, and it's like what?
Yeah.
So it's a bit weird to me.
I'm a big fan. Speaking of what Adrian and Kat and honestly all of us are talking about, I'm a big fan of this El Miniaturista on Instagram.
Yeah, he's cool.
Juan Sands is his name. And honestly, this is kind of what he does. He's just really good at it. And for me, the big thing is, build up your layer. Honestly, I'll say candidly,
Sure.
not particularly accessible, but with an airbrush for me.
Fair.
Then you can do contrast. It's a glaze, more or less, right?
Yeah.
But we were saying this earlier, I think that's good. And for a lot of armies, Space Marines especially,
Yeah.
Votan, I think, is another reason this has come up with their helmets so on.
Oh, for sure.
That's
the Ninjon video. You looked at that.
Right, you can then just be done.
Yeah.
But, or you can hit one thing, like we hit the visors on ours, right? You can go hit a couple
Yeah,
things.
just a little pop.
But it then gives you this model that I really think is a good place to go back to with brush.
Yes.
And this is actually what I've been doing with my painting recently more, is doing as much as I can with an airbrush and then not saying, okay, I'm done, but then saying, cool, now I can play. I hit some details, I do eyes, I do the things that need to be done.
Yeah.
But I can also now improve this army, right?
100%.
With a brush.
I'm a big fan of this technique.
Yeah.
I'm all about the 80%, and then I always never come back to the end.
Yeah.
Get it somewhere where it looks good. You're not embarrassed to put it on the table. Get playing as soon as possible,
Yep.
and then you come back and revisit it and things like that. I think that's a great method and a great technique, honestly.
Thank you, Caldorf. Caldorf points out it's not new, just a way to undershade. It's hot because I can get decent undershade Zenithal without an airbrush. I think it is a method that makes hobby accessible.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Look, Carldorf, you said it perfectly.
Yeah.
That's literally perfect. That's it. We're done.
No, I mean it's great. I'm happy that all the videos are coming out. On YouTube, we're all kind of under pressure to make something sometimes that has been around for a while seem new and exciting.
Sure, that's fair. Yeah.
And rebrand Slapshot 2.0, rebrand it, and it makes sense. And it is cool that all these content creators are saying, like, what else can we do though?
Yeah.
How else, or how can we use the new tools that are out now? Oh man, I think I was telling you and Kat, I was at Gamecast the other day holding the Army Painter Speed Painter box set.
Totally.
$100 in my hand. I was like, I have so much paint right now. I don't need this, and like I don't know what I'm going to use it for.
Right.
But I would love to do something like this.
Big fan of this technique.
Yeah.
I think it's great. It's just not new. It's just undershading. It's all that stuff.
Yeah.
Which is all great. I think we've talked about this in the use of contrast. It's great. Contrast is not the magic solution, and that's fine. Use it on top of this. It's another tool, and I think that one thing I do love that's come out of this is dry brushing.
Yeah.
I think we in the last 10 years maybe in the hobby world have become a little obsessed with airbrushes.
Yes.
And look, you and I, we both love airbrushes.
Yeah.
It's the main way we paint, but there are other ways to paint, and that's
Yeah.
totally fine. So I like that this really accessible method is suddenly becoming like the hip, cool thing to do. So from that perspective.
Speaking of dry brushing, yes. Speaking of dry brushing, and speaking of Army Painter, not sponsored by Army Painter.
That's not a bit.
Meg and I randomly a month ago got each other a present at GK at the same time, and then like exchanged. I got her a box of GK's Gamecast, our local store. I got her a thing of the Army Painter dry brushes.
Oh, cool.
And we brought them in, and Kat saw them, and Kat was like, wow, those are amazing. Those are so good. So Army Painter has this like tube of a dry brush set that they're really good. They look like little makeup brushes, and we do know people use a good makeup brush can be a good dry brush too.
Oh, 100%.
So not sponsored by Army Painter, but check that out.
But we are available if you guys are interested.
Yeah. I mean. Hey, listen, we have a couple super chats about our last topic.
Okay, yeah.
Our first topic.
Look, that is the topics of the day. So we're going to go ahead and round it on up. If you guys have any questions, now's the time. Let us know, and we're going to start closing it up. Let's take a look.
People were really interested in the competitive thing.
Sure.
Thank you, History Schmistery. If organized Tempest events became a thing, could it alleviate some of what people dislike so much about competitive 40k? In other words, win at all cost and sweaty experiences in GT missions are what have driven people away. Like, would a Tempest, organized Tempest event be?
Yeah. I think so. I think Tempest. So Tempest is what the idea behind Tempest is very similar to the idea behind Commander in Magic. And not to get too deep in the weeds there, but with Commander, it's all Highlander. You can't have any duplicates of cards other than lands. It's multiplayer. There's this concept of like making it a little harder to just like fill your deck with like 4 of the best card and this best combo, and
Yeah.
you just try to get there sooner or later. And Tempest does the same thing in the sense that like because of the randomness, it's harder to perfectly optimize. So they're kind of throwing wrenches in the way of like making things like a super sweaty competitive game.
Right.
So maybe that's what we need, frankly. Sometimes, again, I love you being competitive, but I will be competitive in whatever box that you give me, right? If the
Yeah.
box is like this, that's fine. Like, that's awesome. If the constraints are here, cool. I'll play within that box. And if that box says you have to be ready for random Tempest cards and all this craziness, cool. That's the
Right.
box I'm going to compete in. So I'm open. I don't know if
Yeah.
it will happen, but it's cool.
I'm trying to think in 40k of a good example. I was going to say people who take Necron lists then are like suddenly Tomb Blades become interesting, but people already do take Tomb Blades.
Sure. Yeah.
For that reason.
Right.
For that kind of scoring reason, right?
But it could be something else at a different time. I
Right.
think your point is totally valid.
Right.
You know?
Like, oh, you know, this unit might be kind of good now because it can do everything okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting.
Thank you so much for the super chat.
And then Blood of Kittens, is this?
Hey, it's Nick.
It's Nick, right?
What's
Okay,
up,
I
Nick?
thought so. Nick says random thought. And he says it in all caps, so it's probably not random. What do you think about this? GW sort of did with finals last year. Provide pre-made lists for the biggest event top bracket players. That's
wild.
That's wild. And
What?
like have them bring the armies,
Right.
The painted armies.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
stuff.
That would be interesting.
Even if that wasn't how the finals were handled, Nick,
Yeah.
I just want to see that anyway. I want to see like
Yeah.
invite one person for every faction and have them play with like the studio armies.
Right. Like truly, who is the best given these tools?
And have the pre-made listing is
That would be super cool.
actually really interesting.
I love this idea.
to be honest with you, I know I almost like want when we have a little more Sigmar in the channel, I almost want the person who makes the lists not to be one of the 2 players. So like have John play if me and Bridger are playing, or if have you make a list for like me and John to play.
100%.
Like I almost love that idea. Like there you go, have fun. Like it's kind of interesting.
That's so cool. Thank you so much, Nick. And if you guys haven't, check out Blood Kittens on YouTube.
2 other super chats. Well, Caldorf just says, my round up to 7. Please have John try it on Hobby Titans.
Oh, slap chop with John.
Yeah.
Look, I feel like we need a true slap chop video if we're going to be YouTubers.
Yeah, with John. And it should be John. It should be
And it should be
like-
John.
It should be one
That'd
of us
be
and John, or a
perfect.
cat and John.
Oh my God, this is happening.
Thank you, Doombringer. Doombringer says, do you guys think the stigma around contrast made this rebrand almost necessary to give people a reason to try it over the traditional 3-tone method?
Yeah, I think that is a good thing to come out of this. Again, when we released the contrast video, it's like there's a lot of stigma you have to work against. I frankly, when I tried out the new contrast over in Nottingham, I was like not the biggest fan of the original set. I used them as a supplement for other paints, but other than that, didn't use them a ton.
Yeah.
So I was really curious to see how that would change, and I was like actually really impressed, and I wanted to come back and talk about you can use these in not just the like, I think almost like the Magic Solution kind of campaign that they started on was almost a mistake because it's not Magic, but it's pretty darn good, especially if you combine it with other things. So
Yeah.
this whole slap chop thing is cool in that it's like, yeah, this is how you should use contrast. Just contrast like with a little bit more work,
Yeah.
and you're gonna get amazing results.
Yeah. There's a few more here on this, and
Yeah.
I would just say, practice things, guys.
Yeah,
Like
totally.
don't jump in with your new method on your new Hearthkin Berserkers.
No,
like,
yeah,
like
exactly.
grab a Reaper Mini,
Yeah.
$3 Reaper Mini off the shelf, and grab a couple paints that you might use and just try things out. It's always what I suggest. Practice, practice, practice. Thank you, Oshra. Slapshop as branding is the wrong vector. It's a way to explain a fast and easy painting method without explaining undercoating and contrast.
That's exactly well said.
Yeah.
It focuses on the like, this is the crazy cool method, but you're like, it's actually just fundamentals.
Yeah.
And that's okay, personally. So, I definitely agree.
And thank you, Maxwell Martin, who brings up a good point, which he says, how do you stop your attempted Zenithal prime coat from becoming just another prime coat? Just give it a shot with Rattlecan. Rattlecan, ended up with very little undercoat remaining. We actually, on Hobby Titans, Maxwell, have a little video about this. We did a stream about it. A few weeks back. Actually, Meg did this after she went to Nova in her painting classes. And then you can see, actually, it's like our first short on Hobby Titans. And what you'll see when she does it is it's black already, and then she takes white, and she's holding it like this. And I was with her when she did because I was filming, and it's like, actually it's like this. It's like, just a little bit. You almost want the paint to like come out and just like land on it.
That's also true for airbrushing all that stuff.
True for
too,
airbrushing
right?
as
You
well.
don't want to just hold down. It's like lots of little jets that you're shooting off.
Both for an airbrush and a rattle can, being far away helps. The only danger is you just need to make sure it doesn't look too dusty. And I hate to say it, but this is where model paint starts to pull away from craft store paint. Or not craft store paint, hardware store
frankly.
spray, right? Yeah, get Citadel, get Army Painter, again, not sponsored by Army Painter. Get AK, the AK ones, AK's makes a really good primer, and hold away and do it like that. And just careful. And remember, you can always add more. You can't go back. You can go back, but you're resetting. And I'm sorry to say, I know everyone hates me for this, and everyone comes in and says, no, you can use Krylon. You can use Krylon. Like, when you start trying to push what a rattle can do on a miniature, you need a good rattle can. Yeah.
That's fair. That's fair. Melody says use it like hairspray. Not a bad solution.
Yeah. It looks like another super chat game that hasn't come in here yet.
Totally.
On the,
I did go ahead and put up the hotter grot because I totally forgot to actually generate that. So get your votes in before we close it on out.
let me see here.
Can I read it from here?
Oh, I can actually,
old school style.
I can actually vote. Ooh, fun.
You can vote. Oh my!
Because I'm just signed in as me. Yeah, it's fun. Okay. Oh, maybe not.
Thank you, Dakota. We're doing an old.
That's it. Thank you.
Old squinty method. With competitive in mind, do you think more generalized secondaries would be much better for all armies? I think it would close the gap. Justice for SB. SB.
What's SB?
Space Boys.
Space Sisters Battle.
I feel like they're in a pretty good place. They don't need justice. We need justice against them.
I think yes.
Yes, I 100% agree.
Yeah.
You know, again, is it going to make the game more flat, less like diversity in the secondaries? Sure, but I'd rather have everyone have a good play experience than like have crazy bespoke secondaries for everyone. So 100%, I'd love to see them go back to these more generalized secondaries.
Thank you, Funky Monkey. He says, Rob, the Honest Wargamer, never claimed to have invented Slapshot, and his video is very much tongue-in-cheek, but how many people are getting painted armies on the table, and isn't that the main thing?
Yeah, that's 100% true.
Yeah.
I think, and that's kind of a lot of the heart of the heart of this issue is like the whole slap chop thing getting a little bit overly focused on, but the concept, the underlying idea, we like.
Yeah.
Painting fast, making things accessible, making things easy. I think it's great.
Yeah.
And I think that's what all of these videos get to, right? Honest Wargamer's video, Ninjon's video, Dana's video, and frankly, even just talking about it here. I think the concept is what matters. So if you didn't know what slap chop is, now you know. And now you know.
And we're caught up.
And we're all caught up. We're going to go ahead and close the polls with that appropriate time to say, slap chop, it's hot. 74%, I think. Yeah. 73%. There you go. You got it. Well, regardless of how you feel about the actual naming of it and the branding of it, I think it's a cool concept that we're a fan of. And that is going to do it for us today. Of course, lots of stuff coming up soon on the channel. What we're going to do is we're actually going to be going on a journey right here straight into Liam's channel. I'm going to be hopping on if you guys want to join me. It's a ton of fun, and it is going to be the Liam Talk. Coming up on the channel over on Hobby Titans, though, tonight, painting Votan, not quite slap chop, but pretty quickly, because, look, we're a studio with a lot of requirements.
Yeah,
so.
Tad has been really wanting to do this. I will say real quick, because I know we want to go to Liam's. Broken Chef hopped in here real quick. He just says, any kill teams you guys really wish you had? No real reason. John is a fiend. Broken Chef, that's awesome. I will just say any of the new ones except for the Imperial Breachers or the Kroot, because they're being worked on.
That's entirely fair.
Yeah.
And I would say the Corsairs.
Oh, the Corsairs. Ooh, the Corsairs.
All three of us called dibs on and nobody ended up doing.
yeah, the Corsairs, definitely.
Yeah.
Thank you, Broken Chef, as always, for your support.
Greatly appreciate it. And Zach, thank you for co-hosting on the second episode of The Good Talk.
Yeah, lots of fun.
It's been fantastic. And thank you guys so much for joining us. It's been a wonderful discussion. Hopefully keep it going. Let us know in the comments below if you guys liked it. If you have thoughts on any of these issues, always interested in just creating discussion. That's what this all is about. It's about not screaming into the void, but just chatting with each other and having a good talk, as they say.
Yeah.
That's going to do it for us. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll catch you guys next time on The Good Talk. Bye.